Hello, everyone. Hopefully, you can hear us and see us. We'll be starting in just a second. Is my mic too loud? According to XSplit, I'm blowing the mic out, but I don't know if that's actually true. We'll be starting in just a second. I actually should probably test my mic, make sure it's all working. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. Zach looks like a new man. Yeah, I was just saying. It's a lot of change for one episode. I am now a man who needs glasses because I can't see without them. Although, to be fair, I could probably get away with not wearing them at the desk. But it gives me a headache when I don't wear them now. So
I'm almost ready. I just gotta do 2 more seconds.
And I do feel like my haircut's too short. But there's nothing I can do about that. When is your next Ask Windows Central? We'll probably try and film another one next week. We try and do every... Wow, falling over my words. We're trying to do one every 2 weeks. So if one came out this week, we'll record another one next week, and then that will come out the week after. So 2 weeks' time, or a bit less than 2 weeks' time for the next episode.
I'm still looking kind of yellow this week.
Not on my end.
Well.
Oh, by the way, if just to confirm that this isn't my fault and it's all Skype. If you look at episode 1 of Ask Windows Central and episode 2, the difference in color on your camera is so dramatic. And it's Skype's because I recorded your Skype video for episode 1, didn't I? So you can blame Skype for the reason why you look like you do.
I'll do that. I guess just... What's the name of that app, that Logitech app that we use?
Logitech camera settings.
What an obscure name.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to help you try and find it. We do need to start, by the way.
I know. Just 2 more seconds. I'm going to try. I'm doing this live with the installation. I'm going to crash my computer.
Well, whilst we're waiting, we might as well answer some questions if they're coming in. Do you think Microsoft are going to stop the weekly builds and go back to beta, RC, and final like in the past? I don't. Windows is still a service, just because they're giving it a new name, or in theory giving it a new name. Does not really mean that they have to go back to the old school way of doing things. I think we'll still have an insider program with weekly builds. It would be nice if they were more open about their milestones, though, because even though they don't really do those milestones anymore externally, those milestones, I believe they still exist internally. So we'll have to see what they do.
Wait, oh, there it is. Okay. I gotta mute my stupid phone here. I don't need info Chipotle.
What?
Chipotle is reminding me of stuff. I don't know. All right, I guess I'm ready to record.
Cool. I am now recording.
Same here. In 3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Windows Central Podcast, episode 228 for June 4th, 2021. Hey everyone, Dean and Rubino here, joined with Zach Bowden for another exciting episode of the Windows Central Podcast. We got a lot on our plate this week. We'll still try to keep it to under 90 minutes. Maybe, well, we'll see. Definitely under 90. I can't go. I was just on vacation this week.
You've had the worst vacation ever.
Absolutely worst vacation. But let me do the lineup first. So obviously we're going to talk about the Windows event is a go for June 24th, which feeds into our conspiracy theory about it being Windows 11. We'll talk a lot about that, of course. Samsung announced the Galaxy Book Go, which is a new Windows on ARM PC, and it starts at $349, and there's a lot more to that we'll talk about. I got the HP Elite Dragonfly 5G in-house. I just want to talk about that just because, well, we know how I feel about laptops. When I get one that really excites me, I like talking about it. And this isn't the full review of it, of course, but it is just a pretty awesome laptop. That's 99% awesome. They just fixed one thing. We'll talk about a little bit about Surface Duo, including some discounts and my little results post update from last week. Windows 8 ditched the startup chime. So this was a cool story that I posted on Saturday regarding the reasoning behind why we don't have startup noises anymore on Windows. And it's actually a pretty good explanation. We'll talk a little bit about new Intel chips just briefly. There's a few new Core processors coming out. They'll be coming out later this summer and fall. And Xbox E3 2021 predictions and expectations. Although I haven't read this article yet, we'll talk a little bit. And we have some news regarding Discord, which is kind of interesting too. But that's for us. Zach, how are you doing this fine Friday?
I got a haircut and some new glasses. that's how my
sure
week
did.
Went. I need glasses now. It's been bugging me for ages, and I finally got around to just going to see an optician and getting an actual eye test, and they told me, yep, you need glasses. So that's what's on my face now. I actually don't really like these frames. I think they're too big for my face. But, you know, I'm still getting used to them and stuff. And now it's like, if I don't wear them, I get a headache. So.
Oh, that's interesting. That was fast.
Yeah, I've got.
That's like people who they're like, if they don't have their morning coffee, they're like, they get headaches and they're like starting to like shaking, freaking out. Like I don't have any of that. Like if I don't get caffeine, I'm just like fine.
Yeah.
Which is weird considering the amount of stimulants I need to take sometimes. Regarding glasses, yeah, I had this theory that being locked inside for a year basically affected my vision because I basically couldn't focus further than my walls.
That's my problem as well. Yeah, it's long distance. I can't see anymore. I can see sort of up close, but long distance. I noticed it the most when I'm like out shopping in like a shopping mall or something.
Right.
But I can't read anything anymore. It hurts my eyes.
Yeah. When I would go shopping too, it would just be like everything was just blurry. I could see. Like I was like bumping into.
No, yeah, sure, yeah. It's just it's just a bit blurry.
But the details were kind of missing, and it was never that bad. I'm one of these people who, you know, same thing. I wear glasses for, you know, far distance. Was that nearsightedness? I think. But if it's during the day, I drive without glasses. When I'm watching TV, I'm basically fine. If I'm gonna go watch a movie or I'm driving at night, I would use them. But with the pandemic, my vision just kind of got a lot worse, and I ended up getting also they did the show I'm really getting old, the split ones for reading. But I'm kind of rejecting them. I'm going to bring them back, I think, and they don't really help for reading at all. I'm not that bad. Like I can read my phones and everything without reading glasses.
I'm the same. It's fine for that, but anything more than a few, like maybe a few meters away, that starts to get a bit blurry. And it's funny because like this happened gradually over the pandemic, so I didn't really notice it at first. And I've sort of just lived with it. But now I have glasses. It's like, and I know this is such a cliche, but it's like seeing in HD. It's like, oh my God, is that how I used to see? I feel like my vision's never been this good.
So I agree with that. And it's one reason I don't really wear my glasses often is I just decided I don't like the world and seeing people. I certainly don't like looking at myself in full resolution. It's just like, damn, no, it's all right. I look better a little bit blurry. But yeah, well, we'll see. Hopefully you'll figure out your glasses situation is a road trip for sure. Anyway, let's dive into the big news. Of course, Microsoft announced June 24th, which we were kind of expecting. We didn't know the exact date, of course, but a Windows event. So, you know, this follows Build, where Build was very focused on developers, has been for the last few years. Nadella got on stage, teased in 1 minute talking about Windows, about the biggest change in Windows is coming. And then it went on to other topics, of course. And that was fine. And this actually makes more sense if you think about, of course, that they could have announced this stuff at Build and would have been fine. But it actually would have overshadowed Build and what everybody was there for, which is developer news. And what's coming in June has nothing to do with developers. And like, I actually got to a little fight with people in comments about this. They're like, how are they not testing this stuff out, letting developers give feedback? I'm like, We don't care about developers. This isn't about you. This is about UX. It's about a new design for Windows, not about APIs. And so Microsoft is holding a separate event. They can get on stage, just focus on what's new with Windows. Don't need to compete with other things. Don't need to make a pitch to developers of why this is interesting. You guys could sit this out. You just had build. You got Ignite later. Enjoy it. This is basically for the consumers almost, right? This is for mainstream audiences. So June 24th, 11 a.m., which is weird. They don't always do 11 a.m.
Oh, we'll get to that in a minute.
And they teased out this image with light passing through a window, like the sun going by and causing a shadow and all this
Just
kind
like
of stuff.
Sun Valley.
Just like a Sun Valley, yeah, I suppose. And yeah, and so and then of course I remember I told you, I was like, you do see the 11 in this image, right? And I did a tweet and I drew out the 11. It was pretty obvious. And of course a lot of people were like, that's just the shadows, it's just this, and they were explaining it. And people got into like the physics of it, which was hilarious. But then someone found the exact same image. Microsoft had used that image before back in April. It was just it was white instead of blue. It was the exact same image, but that shadow had the horizontal bar across from the window. And so in other words, they purposely removed the horizontal shadow here to cause a different effect, which looks like 11.
Had I not seen the April photo, I would have just assumed it was a coincidence. But because we now have the evidence that they've purposely removed that bar to make it look more like 2 lines rather than 4 squares, it kind of implies that they kind of did it on purpose to suggest the number 11 or 2 sort of straight lines. And this sort of lines up with what we've been saying for a little while now. If you've been following us at Windows Central, we're always ahead of the curve. We were saying this about a month ago, that Windows Sun Valley should be called Windows 11. Based on a lot of information I have, based on the stuff I've seen regarding Sun Valley, the new UX, some of the information I've seen around marketing for this fall, a lot of it suggests that whatever Microsoft announces at this event will not be called Windows 10. And I had suggested maybe it will be called Windows 11. And now Microsoft appears to be teasing that may be what it's called. I don't know if they're trolling us. I doubt it. Though that said, marketing is one of those things that can change at the last minute. They may have 3 different names going internally. Windows 11 could be a contender, but they may also have, some other names they may want to go with as well. But I have a feeling Windows 11 is the name they're going to go with. I have a feeling they've been talking to OEMs about this already and have been setting the stage for their partners internally. So I think this might happen, and it would make sense because just sort of speculate about the event. This is a Windows event, and Dan's sort of right about that not being about developers. I believe they will announce the new store at this event, and they will likely talk a bit about some of the changes coming to the store policies, but there's no new changes to the app platform in that, here's a new way to develop new apps. That story remains the same. It's just that more developers will be able to submit their apps to the store is the short version of that. And that will take a few minutes. But I think what they really want to talk about is the new store app, which is sort of brand new and stuff and looks much better and whatnot. Of course, they want to talk about the new Windows 11 UX with the new centered start menu and centered taskbar and the new icons and sounds and rounded corners and all that other fancy stuff you can expect from a refreshed user interface. Some new features as well, Windows widgets. We think some new snapping features and whatnot, new battery optimizations and battery UX settings in the settings app, a brand new settings app itself. All kinds of new things coming. It's definitely happening at this event, and we believe it will. It looks like it's going to be called Windows 11, and that of course flies in the face of the whole Windows 10 is the last version of Windows thing. This has been a whole debate amongst the community. I really don't think it matters. I know.
So I got a rant on this. This is like the dumbest thing. It's like, won't they look bad for? No one cares. No one cares. First of all, the only people who know that Microsoft has said that Windows 10 is the last version are some like 0.01%.
Right. Yeah, the world doesn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, the world doesn't know. World doesn't care. Also, I mean, do people not? Are you guys 10 years old? Like, people change their minds. Like, how many athletes have retired and then come back? Like, do you just go like, no, sorry, you said you retired. Michael Jordan, I know you're great, but you retired. You can't come back. You said you're done. You can't. We're not all going to, you look bad now. I mean, that happens in sports all the time. I use the reference of Star Wars because when I grew up, I'm old enough to remember I saw Return of the Jedi in the theaters. I wanted more. George Lucas was like, we're done. I'm done with Star Wars. They'll never, he literally said, there'll never be any more Star Wars because it's my thing. I'll never hand it off to anyone off. And we knew there were magazines at the time with interviews with Kirshner and the directors of Empire Strikes Back and the writers saying Lucas had this whole 9-point plan. These were the first 3, but there was movies after, and they even gave synopsis of them, like what was going to happen. And then there was like the beginning, and that was the original plan. And everybody's like, so there were more movies. And Lucas was like, nope, never happened. So then what happens? What was it, 1997? Lucas is like, guess what? I'm making 3 more movies, and it's the prequels. And then that finished, and he's like, that's it. It's done. That's the whole story. The whole thing was originally about Darth Vader. That was my original plan. There'll never be any more Star Wars movies. And then what does he do? He sells it off, lets other people completely do it, and makes 3 more movies.
Yeah.
So there's a ton of examples of this in life of companies. I mean, it's arbitrary. It doesn't matter. They can just go, you know what? We changed our mind.
Yeah.
There you go.
And to be fair, the person who said, someone mentions the comment, and they're completely right. It was a Microsoft engineer who said Windows 10 was the last version of Windows, and Microsoft never denied it. There was never an official statement Microsoft saying, oh yeah, Windows 10 is the last version. It was a Microsoft engineer who said it, and then Microsoft PR and their PR firm sort of went, yes, that's, we are updating Windows as a service. They never directly said Windows 10 is the last version of Windows. Even so, leadership has changed since then. People's thinking about how Windows is going to go back then is completely different today. Got to remember, back in 2015, they were still doing Windows Phone. They were still, HoloLens was only just launching. They were positioning Windows as a platform that was going to be everywhere. That's no longer the case. We're back to Windows Desktop being really the only version of Windows on the market. Phones are not there anymore. HoloLens still exists, and that's still doing its thing, but it's a very niche market, not really important. And I don't think that doesn't run Windows 10 anymore. It runs Windows Core OS, and they don't call it Windows 10 HoloLens. They call it Windows Holographic. There's no 10 in the number. That dropped the 10 ages ago. Windows Server has never been called Windows 10. The only platform that was still being called Windows 10 is the desktop version. So it makes no sense to keep Windows 10. It's time to move on to something else. And it's such an easy thing to do because a lot of people are like, oh, it's not easy. It's so difficult to rebrand something. I mean, sure, technically, yes, it's not as easy as just leaving it as is. But in regards to actually promoting something and marketing something and telling the world that this is something new and something different, changing the name, changing the number from 10 to 11 is so easy, and it says so much in such a small change. Windows 10, sure. Windows 10 October update, sure. Windows 10 Creators update, sure. Windows 11, okay, sure, that must be a big deal, right? That's just the impression it gives off, and that's exactly what Microsoft wants to do. So yeah, Windows 11, I'm putting my money on Windows 11 for June 24th.
It's also funny too because it's like it really isn't a big deal, right? We're all like having this huge discussion about a name of an operating system.
It doesn't matter. You're right. Yes.
I mean, people care about Windows, but we deal with this every year. iOS gets a new version, Android gets a new version, Mac OS gets a new version. Android's dropped the silly names with desserts. It's just they get to the other thing where a lot of people are like, if they're just changing the way it looks, that doesn't warrant a version number change. Like, guess what? It's not up to you. Versioning is arbitrary. It literally just depends on the developers going, we're going to have a certain amount of features, we're going to ship them at once, and we're going to give it a new version number. That's it. It doesn't need to make sense to you. It doesn't need to be logical. I mean, the last few iOS updates haven't, I would say 80% of it I do not care about. The only thing I cared about in iOS recently that they did was the widgets. Like, to me, that was like, okay, that's useful. That's cool. Everything else I just do not use. I'm a pretty basic smartphone user in the sense where my phone makes calls, checks emails, gets text messages, and okay, do they need to call it iOS 13 or iOS 12, iOS 14? It doesn't matter, man. There's just updates. Like, don't overthink this. There's no in order to hit Windows 11, they need to completely gut the operating system. have a new app layer, have a new app paradigm, and a new UX. Otherwise, I will not accept the change. Like, it's not up to you. Like, it doesn't matter. But yeah, this, from what we've seen of Sun Valley, it's a big change.
Yeah.
Like, it's gonna look, it looks like Windows 10X was looking kind of. It
Yeah.
was like they said that they're like, we're taking Windows 10X stuff, we're putting it into the next version of Windows. That's all I want. It's all I want them to do. So I'm happy with this stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of people, I think a lot of people, when they see this and see the fact that they're going to call it Windows 11, they worry and think back to how Windows used to sort of ship. In that it used to come every 3 years, and it used to be a paid upgrade, and it was a whole thing, and it was kind of crap to upgrade unless you cleaned, installed, and stuff. That's not what this is. Windows, if they do a Windows 11, Windows as a service still exists. All that's going to happen, in my opinion, because listen, I think it would be crazy for them to release Windows 11 and charge for it as an update. I think that would be suicide. No company charges for updates anymore. It's just not a thing. So if Windows 11 ships, it won't be a subscription. If Windows 11 ships as what it is, Windows 11, it will be offered to Windows 10 users as a feature update, just like any other feature update. You'll be able to download and install it. It will install through Windows Update. You won't have to pay a penny, and once you're upgraded, you'll have all the new stuff, and that's that. Just like how you could upgrade from Windows 7 or 8 to Windows 10, except it'll be much more streamlined because the update process is built into Windows now. Back then, you had to download a tool, and the tool was kind of rubbish. On Windows 10, that's not the case. It's just through Windows Update, and it won't take too long. It will take longer than sort of the LCU updates do, of course, but we've done these Windows 10 feature updates before, like the anniversary update, the creators update, the October 2018 update. Those were sort of big Windows 10 releases. Just picture this, picture the Windows 11 release as the Windows 10 October 2021 update. That's how it will be delivered to you as a user, and I don't think there won't be a problem with it. But yeah, I think thinking that they're going to charge for it and stuff is old thinking, and that would be insane for Microsoft to try and do.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Not much else to say on this. I'm excited about it. Like, I want the fresh paint. I want the new.
Windows needs it. Windows needs it. Because it's been the same since 2015. Mac OS has had its refresh. iOS has gone through one. iPad OS came into existence within the Windows 10 timeframe. Android is actually doing a major rejuve this year as well with Android 12. There's a lot of big changes coming with that in regards to UI. Everyone's doing it, and it would be weird for Windows to not do it. So, and it makes sense for it to be Windows 11 because they can't ship a new user experience on an existing version of Windows. If they changed Windows 10 midway through, people would go up in arms. It would be like, oh, this is unbelievable. They've changed so much. I don't know where everything is. Now, we should also probably clarify that it's not like Windows 7 to Windows 8. This is still a familiar Windows desktop interface. A few things have moved around. The start menu is different and whatnot. It is looking more like Windows 10X, but I believe you can still left align the taskbar if you want to have the start button in the corner, because I know a lot of people will have that muscle memory, and that might be a little bit harder to change. That's totally fine. Microsoft will allow you to put that back in the corner and whatnot. But for the most part, the sort of default imagery for Windows 11 will be this centered UI, just like Windows 10X was. And I think it looks really pretty. I think it's a very nice, clean UX, and I think you guys are going to be super happy with it when they announce it on June 24th at 11 a.m. And so we should probably mention it's a live event. Actually, we don't know if it's live, but it is a public event, and you'll be able to watch it streamed and stuff. The actual invite, which let me see if I can find it here. I did have it open, and now it's gone, which is incredibly annoying. Give me 2 seconds. The actual invite says, since you previously expressed interest in Windows, Microsoft invites you to attend its What's Next for Windows digital event on June 24th, where the company will unveil the next generation of Windows. You will hear from Microsoft executives, including CEO Satya Nadella and Chief Product Officer Panos Panay. And I think more people will be talking as well. I have a feeling this will be maybe like an hour-long event where Panos comes out and does the main announcement. Then maybe some specific product teams will come out and talk about their part of the new Windows 11, such as the new store or some of the new features, and they'll do their own specific product demos. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. I'm very excited for this. Some people have said to me, will there be any hardware? We've not heard of any new hardware, but Microsoft can sometimes keep a surprise, a secret. I wouldn't write it off, but I'm not expecting anything. I tell you what, it would be a good if they wanted to ship Surface Neo with Windows 11. This would be a good time to announce that was what they were doing. But I don't know if they will.
And people have been like playing into the logo thing with the 11. Also, the shadow kind of looks like a dual screen kind of thing. Like And this gets into the whole like weird conspiracy stuff about what people are saying. I do think though the teaser that they put out with the 11 and it's at 11 a.m. I don't think those are coincidences. I think that is on purpose. But the real question is, of course, are they doing it to troll us or are they doing it to really tease us?
Yeah.
So um, I I'm leaning towards it really is going to be like a Windows
Mhm.
11, which is again fine. I don't feel like this is a big deal. I think the bigger deal is the UI stuff.
Yeah. The other thing that them calling it Windows 11 sort of implies is that a Windows 12 is on the agenda. Because once they break away from this Windows 10 is the last version of Windows thing and make Windows 11 official, then Windows 12 is on the cards. Like other versions of Windows can happen in the future. The question is, how often will those be? Will they be every 3 years like they were in the past? Or will these be every year, just like Android and iOS, where every year we get Android 12, Android 13, Android 14? Will we get a Windows 12 in 2022? We don't know at this point. I think that would be pretty cool if they did, and then we could have minor Windows releases throughout, like 11.1, 11.2, or 12.1, because it just simplifies things. I really hate the current versioning for Windows 10. It's so lame. Like, it's like 21H1. It's like, cool. What does that mean? It means nothing. It's crap. It's just 10.1 or 11.1 would be fine, but Microsoft had to complicate things.
It basically sounds like we have so few stuff coming this update, we didn't even bother to name it or make it.
That's exactly right, and it just screams lame to me. Whereas 10.1 or 11.1, 11.2, it's just easier, and like it actually gives a little bit of flair to these smaller releases. Like, oh, actually, they actually might be doing some interesting stuff here. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see what they actually do come June 24th. We will be doing the podcast. So the event's at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Normally we do it on a Friday, but because the event's happening on a Thursday, we will do the podcast same day at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time on June 24th. So keep that in mind if you like to listen live, because I think there'll be lots to talk about. But yes.
The only question I have is Enterprise. Because Enterprise needs changes and all that. So could we see them continuing Windows 10 as is and just those boring versioning numbers for Enterprise?
I think we might.
And Windows 11 be for the consumer push.
I think at least at first, Microsoft will continue to update Windows 10. Like, we have seen evidence that there will be a 21H2 for Windows 10 based on Vibranium build 19044. If they are doing a Windows 11, then the only reason this Windows 10 21H2 exists is so enterprises, those who don't want to upgrade to the new UX, can remain on what they are familiar with for longer. And this 21H2 release will be supported for 30 months. So that gives enterprises and whoever else plenty of time to sort of get familiar with the new Windows 11 release, begin training their employees. And then by the time the 30 months is up, Windows 11 will be, stable. It would have been in the market for a year or two now. So that will be, I think that's what their plan is for this. But we'll have to wait and see, of course. Hopefully they will tell us at the event.
Yeah, I think that definitely makes the most sense. We might see that temporary bifurcation. And that's our theory also with Surface Pro 7 Plus and why it exists. It is strictly for enterprise. Yeah. It's for them for the next couple of years. Meanwhile, in the fall, or maybe at this event, who knows? Maybe they announce Surface Pro 8 at this event. That could happen. We, our sourcing... I don't think I don't want to build a hype. I'm just saying they could, right?
So based on what I know about the hardware launch cycle this year, I believe they've got an event in October for new hardware. Well, I think that they could get away with re-announcing Surface Neo with Windows 11 and saying it's shipping in the fall. I think that's the most they could get away with. I don't think they'd want to announce anything else at this event. It doesn't really make sense for them to do that, I don't think, because they want the spotlight to be on Windows and OEMs, I guess, right? Because it's not just about Surface, this event. This event's about the entire PC industry. This is Windows. So it would be weird for them to say, here's Windows 11. Oh, by the way, here's a brand new Surface Pro. And all the other OEMs like, what about all of our stuff?
Right. No, that's definitely true. And I can definitely see, of course, if there was a Pro 8 coming in October, that would be, obviously Windows 11.
Yeah, exactly. So, they would be like the first Surfaces to ship with Windows 11 out of the box.
And that makes sense for what we've been anticipating, which is this would be a relaunch almost of Surface Pro. This would be the first major redesign, as we talked about in the last couple of weeks, since Surface Pro 4 and kind of even Surface Pro 3, which has just been, was a modified Pro 4. You pull all that together, you get this like really whiz bang. Here's a new operating system. Here's the new hardware. Sure, yeah. Look how sleek and awesome it is. And it's like, the rebirth of sort of Surface Pro. That sounds like a good narrative to me, and I could definitely see that happening, along with what we would expect to be Surface Pro X SQ3, Surface Duo version 2, maybe Surface Studio 3.
Oh, I hope
Like
so.
you can actually imagine, yeah, you can actually imagine a big October event launched around, and because that would be the time Windows 11 launches. Now we
Yeah,
are
that's
expecting
true.
June 24th, they show it on stage. Then they announce, hey, insiders, starting today. I wouldn't be surprised if they say starting today.
I hope so.
Or within a couple of days, you can now get the new bits and try it out yourself. And we're going to have an awesome summer of playing with Windows 11. But then come October, November timeframe, it launches for everyone who wants it, gets the update, new hardware. You'll see HP, you'll see Lenovo, you'll see Dell, all up there with new devices too. You see commercials, Windows, this stuff kind of writes itself, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of rides the way we've been talking about, which is that PCs and laptops especially are cool again. Like people really want them. And there's a lot of innovation going on. So sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah.
I guess I won't take another vacation. That was the joke I was going to talk about at the beginning. Was technically I took a vacation this week, and then it dawned on me last week. I was like, wait, Monday is a holiday, like Memorial Day. So that's nonsense. I can't take a vacation on a day off. So I'm like, that's dumb. I ended up having 4 meetings scheduled that I couldn't not attend. And then I had 3 embargoes, I think, to do too. And then the podcast, and then we had our meeting yesterday. So this vacation has just been awful. They've been more like half days.
Yeah.
Like I kind of just been taking care of things around the house, ordering sneakers. But I'm just I need an actual vacation. But looks like I'm not going to get one anytime soon. I think it's going to be a very busy summer. Speaking of summer.
Real quick before we move on, there is a question here I just want to sort of answer. They did lots of public testing with Windows 10 and their subsequent updates. Why do you think they chose to keep this 11 so hidden and not test it publicly? Is it just for the surprise and shock factor? Yeah. I mean, you have to keep in mind that up until February last year, Windows didn't really have a leader, not one who really cared about it as a product. There was no emphasis on trying to position Windows as a platform for innovation or a platform for media attention. Microsoft were sort of had put it on the back burner, and it was being built out as a tool, not to be sort of messed with, essentially. They were doing very little updates to it because they were scared that they were going to break stuff. Panos Panay was put in charge in February 2020. And since then, I've been hearing nothing but incredible things coming out of the Windows team. Lots of these big plans and these big changes are on the horizon. And that's all Panos Panay and his team. Panos Panay is all about the flair. It's all about the shock of... What is Surface? Surface is all about, making people go, wow. He's applying that to Windows. Yeah, exactly. He's applying that to Windows, and this is why the secrecy is back almost. All the Sun Valley stuff internally has all they have watermarks on them. Do not take screenshots. There's a lot of secrecy around it. You've got to be signed up to certain things and be tented for certain things to actually even get into self-host it internally. Just like in the Windows 8 days. I don't think it's as severe as the Windows 8 days, but it's definitely better. It's more Windows 8 than it was a year and a half ago. This is they want the secrecy so they can have these moments on stage where they announce things and social media blows up and goes, wow, look at that new thing, that's crazy. They want that. That's entirely it's what Apple has. Google sort of has it as well. Microsoft wants that, and the Windows 11.
Windows 11 was trending on Twitter too.
Yeah, I saw Windows 11 and I don't know if it was a lot of tweets because the trend tab these days is usually sort of accustomed to what you like and stuff, but I saw Windows 11 trending in the trend tab, and that's even without announcing Windows 11. That's just people speculating in the community talking about it. So it's about marketing, it's about effect, and doing this, keeping it secret and having it so that they can announce it on stage is a big deal. If they had just put Windows 11 into an insider build without any event and just been like, hey, new build guys, here it is, that wouldn't have been as big of a deal as if they did it on stage like they're doing now. Because now we've got 3 weeks of us hyping it up and talking about it and speculating. It's all in their favor of marketing and just building hype, and that's what they want, and that's what this new leadership under Panos Panay is bringing back to Windows.
I agree. So I'm just fixing my lighting here.
Okay.
Oh, and Hughes updated their app, which is kind of annoying, actually. There we go. Someday I'll share the one hack I did on my iPhone using their basically Siri says something really funny every time I charge it and uncharge it. And I'll share that on Twitter sometime. Speaking of busy summer, so Samsung, there was kind of Computex this week. So there's been a lot of announcements, but Normally we're in at Computex, but obviously this year with the pandemic, it's not happening. So Samsung announced the Galaxy Book Go. Now this was actually, leaked weeks ago, but now it's official. So what is this device? Well, it's a Windows on ARM. It runs a Snapdragon Qualcomm 7C Gen 2. Comes out in June. So hey, first time that Qualcomm has announced a chip within a couple of weeks, and it's actually shipping. Now, granted, the Gen 2 is effectively a 7C, slightly modified, so not that big of an accomplishment, but still nice to see. This is a straight-up laptop, 14-inch display, full HD, non-touch, TFT, which isn't great. I prefer IPS. TFT doesn't tend to have as good viewing angles. That said, they use TFT in the Galaxy Book S, which is a pretty premium laptop, and I had zero complaints really about that display. So Samsung can pull off TFT well. It comes with 4 gigs or 8 gigs of RAM. I know that's going to bother a lot of people. It's 64 gigs or 128 gigs of internal storage. And yeah, it's a straight up laptop. So what's the secret here? What's so exciting? Well, it starts at $349. This is it, right? This is that moment we've been waiting for with ARM forever, which is, can they go lower than Intel? Now, the starting version at $349 presumably is that 4 gig version, 64 gigs of internal. You do have a micro SD card for expansion, so that's kind of cool. And it's Wi-Fi only, right? You're not going to get LTE with that model. But still, if you think about education markets, people who just want a simple PC that's going to get all-day battery life, and that will outperform whatever Intel has, which is Celeron and Atom and even their Pentium Silver processor. This is kind of cool, right? This is something we've been wanting. This is a fanless design. It's pretty thin. It's only around 3 pounds. It's a budget laptop at $350, but a Samsung budget laptop, like if there was gonna be one manufacturer you want to try to do budget, it's gonna be kind of Samsung, right? They know hardware pretty well, and they do great stuff with their phones, obviously, but even their tablets and computers have been very good. They always feel more premium than they should, so this should feel like a really nice device at $350. Now, if you want LTE, you can get it. It's an option. You can go up higher. If you want 8 gigs of RAM, that's an option. You want 120, so you could spec it up, right? And get that. It'll still probably be, I don't know, I'm guessing the prices, we don't know, $500-600 for that, which is still pretty awesome, especially with 4G LTE if you want that. So that's nice. And then later this summer, there's a 5G version coming. That one's interesting because it runs the Snapdragon 8CX Gen 2. So that one's going to have a lot more performance to it, as well as 5G. Still in the budget class. We don't know the other specs for it. Presumably, it's going to be pretty similar. It's still called a Galaxy Book Go, just 5G. If they can hit like $800 at that price point, that would be pretty cool, I think. That's going to be, this is a big challenge, I think, to Intel. And AMD has nothing at this price range either, at $350. So this is going to be kind of a cool thing. I was actually surprised. We posted this, the news broke at 8:40 p.m. And we got a lot of comments on it because a lot of people were like, bam, I want that. $350, I'm in. I would like to try that. It was a lot more of that than I had really anticipated was going to happen. Now, we should also mention there's been a lot of news around ARM recently. There's the developer kit that's coming out, which is just a screenless little black box with ports on it. Runs a 7C Gen 2. We don't know the price of that. I speculated probably around $300, but we don't know yet. But it too is a low-cost option for developers who want to deploy and test their apps. But this is a really neat option for people who want a big screen. 14 inch is really ideal. 14-inch full keyboard. That's going to get all-day battery life, right? And not at $350. I mean, I'm excited about this.
Yeah.
This could be the start of something.
The price tag also makes the poorer performance more acceptable, I think. Like, there's less expectation for this device. If it sucks from a performance perspective, it's not the end of the world. I don't think it will suck. I think it's more like Intel. Well, what do we reckon this will be in regards to like performance compared to, say, an Intel chip?
They say, they say it beats a Pentium Silver. So, So it should approach Surface Go. But the thing is, it's hard to measure because even with the Surface Go, you're getting quad core, I think, with that. with the Pentium Gold.
Right.
But this is going to be octa. No, is it octa-core? No, I forgot if the 7C Gen 2 is octa-core. I think maybe also 4-core. But you should get better multi-core performance. So it's going to be kind of hard to measure.
And
But
I'm sure better battery life.
it's supposed to get 2 times the battery life.
Yeah, which is
what
probably the
Intel-
big thing for a lot. Because, like, say, if this is for education markets for the most part, and students, like, most of those will be working in just a browser anyway, or Office at most. And I think 4 gigs of RAM with this sort of level of processor is more than enough for that.
I used ARM back when it was a Snapdragon 850 with 4 gigs of RAM.
Yeah.
I ran the site from it. I had Slack, I had Office, I had the stuff for the website, I had Skype. I remember there's a picture of me using it in the back of a cab, but that's how I was using it. I would be going to the airport and I'd be doing work and stuff like that.
Do you think?
Do
you think the next Surface Go will have this in it?
I think it's on the table. I really don't know their strategy here in terms of swapping chips midstream. Even with the laptop, that's the closest example we have of them doing that.
Yeah.
But even then, they didn't switch to AMD. They offered it as an
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I assume what this would be is the Surface Go 3, I guess, will have the 7C in the 399 model. And then you go up to the whatever it is, the 649 model has an Intel Core M3 or whatever is the latest for that.
It could happen only because by that time, now we're talking next spring, right?
Yeah.
The 64-bit emulation will be locked in.
That's true. That'll be shipping at that point. Yeah.
So technically, it's a solution now. I actually heard some people. I haven't run it yet, the 64-bit stuff, because it's on the dev channel.
Mm-hmm.
But Jeremy Sinclair, who's a developer MVP, he doesn't work for Microsoft, but obviously works within the ecosystem. He loves Windows on ARM. He's actually said the 64-bit emulation it's actually kind of better than 32-bit in terms of performance, which I thought was surprising and interesting. So
I bet that depends on certain apps though, because the emulation is hit or miss depending on what kind of apps you're running. Like if it's like a crappy heavy Electron app, it just sucks in general.
Possibly. When was the last time you ran it?
Well, that's fair.
It was a long time ago. It was literally when it came out, right? And it's been at least 9 months, I think.
True. I should try it again. I'll come back next week and tell you if it's still crap.
Yeah, so that's all I'm saying, because I was under that impression too that it wasn't that great. Because I remember I did run it once and I was like, okay, whatever. I also don't have a list of 64-bit apps that I'm just dying to use. I use ARM all the time. So like I use the browser, PWAs, and the apps I do use run fine. So, but they might be able to do that at that point. Switch. I think what's happening now is as Qualcomm is getting more chips out there, we're starting to see them now be able to push down some of the prices. And to Qualcomm's defense on pricing, I've said this before, and they've told me this off the record, which is like basically they don't set the price of this. I mean, sure they sell the chip to a company like HP or Samsung or Dell or Microsoft, but it's the OEMs who then set the price. And from what I understand, those high $1,000 starting points is the OEMs setting that price.
Yeah. You know what that is as well? I bet that's in part because they expect these not to sell much, so they need to make their money back in just by inflating the price, which then also kind of doesn't help it selling.
I think it's a combo of both. I think it's them dipping their toes in the market, and you want to start high, right? It's always easier to start your price at 1,000 and have it sell well than and you can lower it later if you need to.
Yeah.
Then it looks good. You never really want to be like, here's last year's product, now it's $200 more, like, because that's a tougher sell, right? And I think we'll see that. We'll talk about this in a minute too with Surface Duo. I think Surface Duo's price is very high. It's come down now with sales, but what, $1,400, right? Mm-hmm. What does everybody say with that?
Too much.
You're paying $1,400 for one lousy camera, for not enough RAM, for an old processor, no 5G. You're 100% right. 100% right. But you know what? When they come out with version 2 and it has all that stuff you want on it, it's a very modern smartphone chipset feature, and they keep the price the same, now it looks like a lot better. Imagine if they came out and they're like, here it is, Surface Duo version 1, $900, $800. And then, here's version 2, $1,400. Like now, they're going to jack up the price, $500. They don't care. They knew it wasn't going to sell a lot. But I know this is a long tangent here. I'm just saying that I think we're starting to see the ARM market sort of
Yeah.
stabilize and go down to those lower prices.
It's definitely here to stay. A lot of people I still say like, "Oh, this is a dead end for Microsoft." It's not. It's just another option in the vast market that is the Windows world. There will be Intel, there will be AMD, there will be Qualcomm, and hopefully maybe Exynos and whoever else in the future who want to build chips for Windows, whether they be ARM or something else entirely, some new architecture that doesn't yet exist. Why not? Microsoft should just welcome any kind of a chip architecture because that's just the best thing for the platform. So yeah, I think this is here to stay. I think this. I'm excited to try out the 7C because I really just want to see how it like operates. I bet it honestly. I bet it's fine. I bet we're just worrying about. I bet for what it is, it's fine.
If you run the Surface Go, you'll be fine.
It's true. I love the Surface Go. I think it's the best Surface.
So if you're fine, I think this is totally.
Yeah.
I've been running the I still got to review it too. The Elite Folio from HP, which runs the 8CX Gen 2. I couldn't be happier with this device. It's the speed of it is awesome. Like the OS is really now optimized for ARM.
And that should only get better with Windows 11, I assume.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to what they do with that in terms of the UI. I'm sure it'll look even better. So that's Galaxy Book Go. We'll probably review it. I should have mentioned that Samsung wasn't too. Samsung's PR is very weird. This was out of South Korea, so their South Korean PR is not as forthcoming as the American version. So I can't promise we'll do a review, but I'll try to do it. But that comes out in June. We'll announce when it's actually available and look for the 5G version later this summer. Yeah, speaking of HP, I keep saying on this podcast, so HP is just killing it for me. Like if I had to choose computers right now, they're HP. And I'll tell you why. So this is and if you're watching it live, you can see this on the video, hopefully. This is the HP Elite Dragonfly 5G, just came in. It's kind of hard to order right now, but in terms of customizing it. But this is kind of there's still the Elite Dragonfly G2 out. So this is separate from it. You can see now it's in black. It's got the shiny thing. The reason why I think HP is just killing it, though, first of all, and I put a video of this on Twitter, and this is like kind of a visual. You see how I'm like manhandling my laptop right now, rubbing my sweaty, greasy fingers on it. You see what's not happening? You're not seeing fingerprints on there.
That's crazy.
Because it's an oleophobic material that they use. I mean, it does pick up some stuff. Yeah. It's not 100%. But if you go watch my video where I compare it to another laptop, it's night and day. And they did this on the blue version too, but it's more noticeable in black. I love black laptops. They look cool until you start using them. Then they get really gross looking. Mm-hmm. This solves it. It's on the inside of it too. It's not just the outer shell. But I mean, can't all laptop makers just do this? Razer, could you do this? Microsoft, could you do this? I do know Lenovo is experimenting with this stuff too. So look for the Lenovo to be putting it into some of their laptops. But like, these are the little things when I like kind of rag on the Surface devices lately. And I'm talking about where like companies like HP are pushing it. So what makes this device special too is it has a 5-megapixel front-facing full HD camera. It's a larger sensor, and I kind of put a photo of it up on Twitter as well. And I have a review coming for this in a couple of weeks too. But it's a really good webcam. I haven't really compared it yet to Surface, which does set the bar here. Pro X specifically, I think, has the best webcam, but it's a very good webcam. It's the first webcam you would actually want to take a photo with, and like, it's kind of what we've been asking for. It also has Windows Hello YR. It has a little camera shutter thing on there. This also has their HP SureView Reflect, which is the 4th gen SureView technology. If you don't know what that is, it's basically a privacy screen. It's done through hardware. So by itself, it automatically reduces visual angles. So if someone's trying to do what's called visual hacking, basically looking over your shoulder, by default, it automatically kind of obscures things. But if you hit a button on the keyboard, it turns it on. And now it makes it really hard. In other words, you can only see stuff if you're looking at it straight on. When you look at it straight on, it looks amazing. It looks like a really nice display. But as soon as you like tilt your head, you can't see the screen anymore. It's brilliant. That screen is also 1,000 nits of brightness. It's ridiculous. It's so bright. At nighttime on the couch, I have to set brightness to 0%. And even that is probably still too bright. So it's a very bright display. It's touch. It supports pen and inking, AES 2.0, of course. It's only full HD. And my only bugaboo about this laptop is it's a 13.3 inch, 19 by 20 by 1080. It would be so much better if it was 16 by 10, of course. That's my thing. But still, it's a really nice display. Runs a Core i7. You can get it with a Core i5, up to 32 gigs of RAM. You get all that kind of stuff. Has nice ports, full HDMI, 2 Thunderbolt 4s, USB-A. And this one you can get it with just Wi-Fi, you can get it with LTE, and you can get it with 5G. So this is the 5G version, which is awesome. They also have a toolless SIM tray, which I just love. It's a SIM tray. You just push in with your fingernail. It pops out. Yeah, thanks. I don't need the little stupid pin thing. Come on. So I've been using this. I've been using this in the Elite Folio. I go back and forth between them. They're just so good. Now, this is an expensive laptop. Don't get me wrong. This is going to be over $2,000 easily. They also added 2 microphones on the back, what are called world-facing mics, which cancel out noise coming in because they have an AI system in there. They have a very sophisticated AI system built for detecting where the laptop is. I've talked about this on this podcast before, where laptops can now detect if it's in your lap or on your desk. And if it's on the desk, it ramps up CPU performance and keeps those fans going and all that kind of stuff, because it knows you probably want more performance. Whereas if it's in your lap, it balances off performance and heat and fans and all that kind of stuff, so it's more comfortable to use. And it even can do things where, like, if it's held like grab it again, if it's like vertical like this, like say it's in your bag being carried, it will go into a low power state because
Nice.
but if it goes flat after like 5 to 10 seconds, it knows it's going to be used, and so it kind of wakes up. So then when you open it, it's fast.
That is cool.
Now, it is super cool. And the reason I bring this up again is because this is Intel. These are Intel chips that are doing this. This is an AMD. Intel has these sensors built in, and they built the APIs, and a company like HP, they go build software and tweak it. And I talked to the engineer who basically showed us a live graph of the sensors working in real time. That's the value of Intel chips in Ultrabooks these days. I know AMD is all about the performance, but these are the little things that you're starting to get now with Intel chips, including AI for noise. So when you're on a call, it can filter out the background noise automatically for you, kind of like what NVIDIA does. This is the selling point. This is also, because it's 11th gen, the fans on here and the cooling and everything is way quieter and cooler than the 10th gen. The 10th gen was, I think in my review, I actually pointed out that it was pretty noisy. But I love the keyboard on it and all this kind of stuff. So if you're looking for a cool business kind of laptop that kind of does everything except it needs a 16 by 10 display. But it does everything else. If you need a really good laptop, this is kind of my jam. I'm traveling for the first time next week, and I'm deciding if I should do Elite Folio or Dragonfly Max. I'll probably do the Max just because, but it's got that 5Gs, baby. So, there we go. Let's quickly talk about Surface Duo. We mentioned last week the update came through. Zach, how's the update been treating you?
It's fine. It's better than the April one. Although, to be fair, the issue that they say is fixed is not fixed. It's just less common now, because I've hit it a couple times, but definitely not, because I was hitting it maybe 4 times a day before, but now I've had it a couple times since the update came out. But it still exists. It's still definitely there. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, the April update introduced this weird issue where you'd be using it in book mode and one of the screens would turn off as if it was being used in single screen mode. The May update changelog suggests that they fixed that. It says that, we fixed an issue where one of the screens would go off when in book mode. But no, I've still sort of hit that a couple of times. Definitely less frequently, but it still seems to be a little bit of an issue. I don't know if you've had that problem.
I haven't seen it as much, so that's totally related to the whole idea of orientation. They're really tweaking the orientation sensors to detect how you're holding it and where the screen is supposed to rotate or flip or turn off. Like I was able to recreate where the device is kind of at a almost horizontal and the screen is starting to articulate reverse, and then it turns off the screen. Mm-hmm. It's not easy what they're trying to do. They're literally trying to do what I would call anticipatory gesture or posture changes. In other words, you're holding the device as you're starting to move it to, say, switch to one screen. If you think about how you're going to hold the device and move it to that position to then close the screen. They want the operating system to kind of be a few seconds ahead of you, or milliseconds, I should say, ahead of you, so that as you do that, it knows, oh, I'm being switched now into a new position. Let me do that, including things like just switching the orientation, right? So I think they're really just sort of tweaking that, and we're just experiencing it live. And that's where some of these bugs are coming from in terms of how they're being detected.
I also had, and this happened yesterday on our meeting, Dan. I think I mentioned it, where the Duo was open and it was in use, but then one of the screens went black and the other went white, and it just completely froze. Couldn't do nothing with it. I had to force reset it to get it to come back to life. So yeah, that's how the May update's going.
So my issue, and I'm not really blaming the update per se, but it was definitely an issue related to the update. And the reason I say this because obviously I've running certain things like VPNs, and I have, you know how you can install a lot of stuff on Android, right? It's, you don't know sometimes what does. All I'm saying was after the update, I felt like the cores, the little big cores, part of the Qualcomm chipset, were running at 100%, all of them permanently. By which I mean my battery drain was crazy. Like I'd be like at 80%, and I would go look at the estimates, like, you got an hour and 14 minutes left. I'm like, wait, what? Like, how's that possible? And then when I would go to charge it, of course it would charge, but it was also getting very hot in the back. And it basically felt like the processor was just running 100% permanently. And I couldn't really figure out why. And I've said this before, where I've never reset this device. I reset it once out of the box within the first few days because I was testing the out-of-box experience. But this has been running since like October on its native version, basically. So I was like, you know what? Let me reset it anyway. It's been a while, and I don't do the restores. I just do it manually
fresh.
again.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Yeah. So I started fresh, and it's been brilliant since then. I kind of like it way more now than I did a month ago. Even it's just the way everything's been working out, and plus being a fresh installation, has definitely helped. I guess we should also mention on Microsoft and Amazon apparently too are offering up to $700 off of the price now. So you can
They're
get it
basically giving it away for free.
Which we kind of knew was going to happen because we're anticipating version 2 later this year. So they are starting to clear stock now. And that's fine. Should you buy it? I've said this before. Like, it really depends. Like, if you're totally comfortable with paying $700 now, I think you're going to be very impressed with the version 2 hardware changes. I'm very confident in that. And if you're comfortable seeing that and either going, that looks amazing, they fixed everything, but I'm going to be fine with this version for another year, or you see that and be like, all right, I want to drop another $1,400 on that, then sure, go for it. Just be aware, right, that version 2 is coming, and I think the hardware is going to be really, really nice with it. But for me, that's easy. Like them adding NFC, like, okay, that's fine. The real question is the software.
Yeah.
Like, can they figure out the software? That's really going to be the make or break part. And that one we don't know. They're definitely making progress, but they still have a ways to go yet. So.
Yeah. I just want to comment since I've done it. I put the bumper back on the Duo. I hate this bumper so much. It makes me not want to use the Duo.
Interesting.
It's just so gross. It picks up dirt like there's no tomorrow. Why isn't it like a sort of hard plastic rather than
pick up dirt?
rubber?
I feel like if you use it and it gets sort of like, I don't know, mine doesn't have.
Well, if you put it in your pocket, it picks up pocket lid like this. I
put it in the pocket all the time. I'm always using it.
What color is yours?
I got my new.
It might hide that color. Might hide it better than the dark one I've got. The dark one, especially if you wear like a hoodie or something, it just grabs it. It just grabs all of it. And you've got cats. There's cat hair all over it all the time.
Yeah, I have seen cat hair get on there, but it's not bad. I don't know. I'm still a big fan of it. I'm still using it all the time. You know what kind of changed my opinion too of it, and this is kind of dumb. I kind of didn't realize you can set the what do you call it? The calendar stuff. What's that thing?
The calendar? I don't know. Oh, the
It's
activity view or the shelf. I can't remember what it's called now.
Yeah, I'm not dumb.
It's the activity view. I'm sure it's called like the activity feed. Activity feed. That's what it's called.
Yeah, the activity feed. I didn't realize you can set that as the home.
Oh, you didn't?
I think I did, and I
You just never
forgot.
did, yeah.
But yeah, so when I swipe up, so I keep that as my default home, and then my apps on that side. And so the reason I really like Duo is because when I open it up, it's like a PDA for me. I see all my calendar appointments, the current forecast. It's literally glance and go for me. So that's kind of why I like it. But that's also changed my kind of thoughts. Anywho, that's the Surface Duo updates. Cool story ran over the weekend here. I wasn't happy having to do this on a Saturday, but Jensen Harris has a long history at Microsoft. He was, you know, what was his official? He was director of program management for the Windows user experience team.
Yes.
And he basically oversaw what we were talking about earlier, sort of the vision of Windows and this idea is, what should be done, what shouldn't be done.
Yeah,
And also,
he was a top guy on the Windows 8 UI, which some may or may not like him for.
and so he left Microsoft in 2014, started his own startup.
No surprise.
Now he's doing a video series on YouTube, and it's really well produced, and it's great storytelling. And he's going through and basically talking about his experiences at Microsoft and why things are the way they are. And he's going to actually talk about the Windows 8 tablet experience versus the desktop and what happened with that whole thing. But in this current video, it was more direct. He explained why Windows, specifically Windows 8, why they ditched the startup sound, which was so iconic for a lot of Windows users. You boot up the computer and they would have that tone, which I'm not going to redo because I don't sing. And then of course Apple had theirs too, which was pretty famous, and they got rid of it in Windows 8. And he explains in the story why they did that, because the real spoiler of the story was they actually have a specific Windows 8 startup sound. We've never heard it. He's going to reveal it in another video, but they actually commissioned and had one made. It just didn't get released. So why did they not ship it? Well, he explained by the time Windows 8 was coming out, the world was changing. It was becoming more mobile. Basically, computers are moving away from pure desktop usage. You'd walk into a room, you'd sit down in your chair, and you'd log into the computer. That was the startup noise made sense. Everything was going more towards laptops, and that posed problems where maybe you're in a library and you open up your laptop. Did you want it to make it a loud noise? You're in a classroom. Did you want it to make a loud noise? He gave the example of using his Mac late at night. The baby was sleeping, but he wanted to go on the computer. But he knew there was a 50-50 chance, he said, that it would make that noise and risk waking up people. And that's really true, right? The way we use computers significantly changed as laptops became a bigger thing. And yeah, do you really want to be in public and have this thing announce, I've been turned on, right? It becomes superfluous at that point. There's also this other issue, which was they were doing Windows on ARM. Windows RT at the time was coming out. And that team was tasked with optimizing the operating system as much as they could. And they weren't happy when Jensen came to them and was like, we're going to put the sound in because it was going to add milliseconds onto the startup of Windows, as they were already offshooting and putting things off to optimize performance. And they were going to have this new thing. So there was all this stuff came together, and they finally basically decided not to do it. Now it's funny because Apple got rid of theirs too in 2016. They did bring it back in late 2020. It's an option now though. So you can use it if you want it for nostalgia purposes. And it does, get back to this question we're talking about Windows 11. Should they do that? At least make it an option, of course. So
yeah, I don't think they will, but it would be nice. Yeah, I find this story super interesting. And as you mentioned, Jensen Harris, he mentioned that there's other stories around Windows that he's willing to tell. What somebody sort of half mentioned in this video is that it sounds like that the Windows 8 sort of tablet UI was never intended to ship on desktop when they sort of conceptualized it. And that was a decision that was made a bit later, and not everybody agreed with it internally at Microsoft. So that's hopefully he tells that story, because I want to hear about that, because it would be so interesting. Could you imagine the world right now if Windows 8 had shipped for tablets only, and then Windows, I don't know, something else would have been what actually shipped on the rest of the PCs? That would have been so interesting.
Windows 7.5. Yeah, I mean, well, it gets into this current there's the same issue they face with Windows 10X, right?
Yeah.
10X is going to be for new hardware experiences. And Core OS, same thing, which I think made sense. It was a nice bifurcation of like, no, this is for desktop, this is for laptops and professional uses. That's straight up Windows. We're going to come out with a new series of devices that are kind of experimental, do things differently. They're going to run this lighter, different version. Like that made sense. And I still kind of wish they would do it. But to their credit, I think the world of processors have changed. We're getting a lot more out of processors now. You look at what ARM is doing with Apple. Like, the reason is like, you want to slim down Windows, and get better battery life and do all this kind of stuff. But then you look at what Apple's done with the M1, and it goes to show you like, oh, you can squeeze a lot out of ARM and really run full desktop operating system, still get great battery life, and not really have to give up anything. And that's the question. Then do you really need to give up 32-bit and x86 applications to get that great battery life and instant performance? I think that answer to that a couple of years ago was absolutely that's the way you do it. But I think now with today's hardware, where things are going, I think maybe they said, we could still do this. Like we could actually put a new processor in these devices and keep everything. So maybe that's what they're doing. But yeah, it was a cool video. By the way, we did run a poll on our site. Over 1,000 people responded. 70% says they should bring back a startup chime in Windows. Optional, of course. Technically, it is there. You can actually enable it, I think, but you can't change it or anything. And I guess that gets into the question, too, and you may know more about this. My hunch is, Windows 10X, we both run it on our Surface Go's, had new sounds to it. They're very delightful. Do you think they're going to bring those over to
I would
Windows
be
11?
surprised if they don't. I mean, they had them commissioned and made. I'm sure somebody had to pay for them. So why not ship them in Windows 11? I mean, because like I said, they are basically bringing tailored versions of the 10X interface over. I think the sounds suit this new interface quite well. So yeah, I think they will do that. If they don't, I don't know what the hell they're thinking.
It's really weird having a new looking UI and old sounds, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's a given. I'm actually excited about that stuff. I'm really, 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 really tired of Windows 10 default sounds. It just
I know, me too.
don't do anything for me. Well, we'll see what happens. But yeah, go check out that video, Jetson Harris. He's on YouTube. Follow him on Twitter. We'll cover more of his videos as he's obviously going to reveal a lot more stuff. But I thought that was a really interesting history of why that happens. Yeah, it's cool stuff. Real briefly, Intel announced some new chips this week. And of course, I don't have the article in front of me, so I don't remember all the names. Let's see if I can find it real quickly. Oh, it is at the top of the page. No, it's not. Nope, still don't find it. Wow, a lot of Intel stuff.
The 1155 G7 and 1195 G7?
Yes.
What are they, Dan?
So, yeah, I guess long story short, Intel announced new Core processors this week. It's just two of them. These are U series, so U for Ultrabook. These are the ones you're going to get new Surface devices, new stuff from HP and Dell that are the thin Ultrabook, not the H series. So these are going to be Core i5, and there's a Core i7 as well. Yeah, so the i5 1155 G7 and i7 1195 G7. All you need to know about them is they're slightly faster U series. So the i7 now on a turbo single core can peak at 5 gigahertz. So this is the first time we've hit 5 gigahertz in U series, which is kind of a big deal. Arbitrary.
That might be able to run the podcast.
Yeah, seriously. Previously they had 4.8 gigahertz, so now it's at 5. And the XE graphics also went up from 1.35 gigahertz to 1.4 gigahertz. So
wow.
A modest increase. I know. So these are mild upgrades, but still.
Well, I'm curious, real quick. Why do Intel do this? Why don't they just wait for the 12th gen and just be like, oh, 12 gen's here, and that was better than 11th gen? Why do they do these sort of mid-tier?
Mid-cycle upgrades. I think this has to do with them. It probably gets real technical here, but the way they make chips is just like it's very hard. So these chips, the like i7 1195 G7, right, is a top tier U series. It's the top of the line. But to get the yields on the bins to hit that speed it's got to be like super hard because that's how chips basically work. Like you manufacture the wafer thing, and then you got, but there's like the yield, what you can actually pull. It's kind of like Bitcoin mining. What you can actually pull out of that chip, they don't all. It's really hard for them to hit those high numbers
Mm.
consistent. So they're going to be small numbers. The ones that don't get downgraded to the 1185 G7 and the 1165 G7, like, and that's how manufacturing works. So I think it took them a while to optimize their manufacturing enough to hit this and be able to mass produce enough of them to then ship to OEMs comfortably. But yeah, there's a bunch of, so the stuff's coming out this summer. They posted a bunch of numbers too about how many, I think it's going to be 60 new laptop designs featuring this chip and over 250 new laptops by the end of this year featuring the 11th Gen Core U series. So I know AMD, is a big deal. And they're one to watch for sure, but Intel's momentum here is still pretty massive. And I've said this before, the Ultrabook stuff is really Intel's strength right now. They also announced the Intel 5G Solution 5000 M2. So this is...
That's a great name.
Yeah, so M2 is just a little, that's the form factor. It's basically Intel's 5G chip, but it's actually made in conjunction with Fibrocom, who, if you ever bought a Lenovo laptop before, they make the chips for them. So Fibrocom makes the chips. Intel does some of the hardware and the servicing behind it. And then there's a third company that does some more of the software and driver stuff. Now, I just mentioned I have a 5G laptop behind me, right? The HP Elite Dragonfly 5G. That uses a Qualcomm X55 chipset. So that's how that's being done. So every 5G laptop up to now has been Qualcomm X55. Now Intel is on the scene, and you're going to start to see laptops coming out later this year with that. And the reason why that's good, it drives down prices. I was actually shocked. The Dragonfly 5G, to get that 5G, it's like an extra $400 or $500.
Wow.
The LTE model. Like, it's Qualcomm is charging a lot for that premium right now. And they do that because something that Zach alluded to earlier, which is investments. Qualcomm invested a ton of money into 5G. The only way they can recoup that is by charging a heck of a lot for the chips for the early adopters who want it, right? Now that Intel's on the scene, you're going to start to see a little bit more price competition. That's good. That means hopefully soon you won't have to pay $500 extra for 5G. You'll start to see that price come down. So this is a good thing. So that's your Intel news, but this is good for the industry, of course. Yeah. Xbox E3 2021. I haven't been following anything on this. Do you know what's been going on with this?
We don't. I don't know too much about it. Obviously, we know that the Xbox briefing is on June 13th, I believe, and we are expecting to hear from Bethesda. We're expecting to hear from 343 Industries, and I'm sure there'll be some other developers as well. But I think the main things people are looking out for here is Halo Infinite and any word on any Bethesda game. I think there's some up and coming ones, but I doubt we'll hear about the next Elder Scrolls. I think it's still too early for that.
It's supposed to be the big thing.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with Starfield, unfortunately. Obviously, I've been following the Halo stuff more. We are, in regards, I guess I could talk on the Halo side. We are hoping to see some more gameplay, and hopefully it looks a bit better than the gameplay we saw last year. We saw about 10 minutes of campaign last year. This year, I think we're hoping to see maybe a bit of campaign, but I think some people want to see multiplayer as well. Multiplayer is a big part of Halo, and we've not really seen any of that yet. So some multiplayer gameplay would be nice. And maybe not specifically at E3, but once they do their sort of unveiling for Infinite, they should definitely start sort of detailing the rest of the game, like Forge and all the different multiplayer modes and how many levels there will be and stuff, because we don't know anything about the game yet, and it's supposed to come out in 6 months, or even less than that, in November, so 5 months. So yeah, they need to start sort of telling us all about it now, and hopefully we may even get a multiplayer beta, because they sort of promise that that's on the cards. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
So regarding Starfield, let me quote our article. The headline event for Bethesda at the showcase will ultimately be Starfield. Very little is really known about Starfield besides the fact that it is set in space. It's a single-player RPG, and its development is being led by the teams behind the modern Fallout games and the Elder Scrolls. It's expected that you'll be able to explore space, potentially in spaceships constructed by yourself. Although beyond that, the rest is just speculation. So it's gonna be like No Man's Sky,
Yeah.
which I literally just bought this week.
It's a good
I bought
game.
it for
It was
$18.
terrible at launch, but it's good now.
So it got a massive upgrade this week
Yeah. Oh, did
with
it?
like a whole new like graphics, and it's just like it looks ridiculous now. And I got it for $18. And then Jez, our games editor, is like, it's on Game Pass, right? I'm like, whoops. So I could have downloaded it for free, but I paid $18 for it. That's fine. The money can go to the developers. This seems to be this new genre of like, it goes to show you with the amount of computing power we have, you can do this sort of. There's another game too, right? What's that other one? Now I'm gonna forget the name of. No, there's another space game that same thing where you build your own spaceships and you fly around to different planets.
Everspace or something? I can't remember now.
Possibly, and they added added like an FPS element to it recently too. But it's because of the computing power that they can do now that you can create these massive worlds. And it's like, oh yeah, why don't we just create like, I don't know, a universe and planets, and you just build a ship and you can fly around and you can like, mine and talk to other people. Like it's just kind of crazy. So I can see this genre is becoming, and for me, it speaks because I like sci-fi better than like warlocks. So, but this should be kind of cool to watch with Starfield. So, and Bethesda is like, they're a cool studio. Like if there's like, one company you're kind of glad Microsoft bought, that would be it. Then yeah, ID too, of course. But I'm sure you'll be watching for the Halo stuff as well as racing games with the Forza series and all that kind of stuff. So it should be pretty interesting gaming month in June. Make sure you follow Jez Corden for that. And of course, we have our own Windows Central Gaming YouTube channel, Windows Central Gaming Twitter account, and Windows Central Gaming subsection on the site where they go into deep detail about all the stuff, since Zach and I clearly do not follow this as much as we should. That's okay. And I guess that leads us finally to our announcement of Discord. We are now on Discord too. So Jez actually kicked us off this week by starting a Discord channel for Windows Central. It started off initially as for gaming, but we've since added sections for Windows discussion, Surface hardware. People are sharing wallpapers. There's a wallpaper channel. There's a Your Battle Station setup where people share their setups and photos. And I believe we're at 425 members right now, which is crazy because we really haven't advertised this. It's not on the front page yet. So if you do want to join, just go to windowscentral.com/Discord, and all the info is there, including /
backslash will take you nowhere.
See, that's the real trick. /Discord, and the link is there for you to join if you want to. It is moderated. We only ask, there's no politics. No one discuss politics or current events. We just discuss Microsoft. There's like the Windows channel, as I said. If we want to discuss gaming, there's the gaming channel. If you hate Windows, cool, don't join.
Yeah, exactly. We want no unnecessary negativity is a big one. Because, they're so easy and it just makes everyone feel sad. So none of that, please.
I totally get it. If you don't like Windows, I totally understand. I just don't need to hear about it. It's fine. This is a channel for people who want to discuss Windows. They discover things. You have questions. You want to talk about possibly Windows 11, what that's going to join that. I'm in there more often than I should be. really worried about my work productivity because I can't help but engage a lot of people. It's actually been very good discussions with people. And Zach's in there too, of course, and Jez is in the gaming one. So it's a really cool thing. We're very happy about it. We'll be promoting more of it in the future. But yeah, that's our Windows Central Discord, just our way of kind of interacting with the community and stuff like that. So go join. I guess that's the thing of the week, to be honest. My other thing of the week, I guess, is I just went back to the gym for the first time yesterday. Yay, 14 months.
How did that go?
14 months since I've been to the gym. I'm fully vaccinated. Today is my 2-week anniversary from my second shot. So I can now make out with people with COVID and be totally fine, apparently.
I'm getting some serious FOMO not having any vaccine. I haven't even had my first jab yet because we're not allowed in the UK until they say.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, the mask mandate is lifted too. Like, it's weird. I actually went to the supermarket for the first time last night, no mask. It was And same thing with the gym. You don't have to wear a mask. You can if you want to. People still are. And there's no shame in that, of course. I know some
Yeah.
people are being a little more cautious, which I'm totally fine with. I decided I'm done. I'm like, I'm not gonna work out with a mask. I'm like, I'm all right.
Yeah.
And I
I
really
can't
didn't
wait
have
for
any
that here.
side effects. Yeah, and so yeah, it was fun going to the gym last night. It was a little weird. 14 months. It was just like it was both different but the same. Um, I'm actually going to do something on Twitter maybe tomorrow, if not Monday, because I had to buy. It was kind of like going back to school. Do you remember going back to school as a kid? You were so excited because you got new clothes, you got
Yeah.
new sneakers, you got your new kicks, you got a new backpack, and you couldn't wait to use them. So I was like that with the gym. I had to buy new sneakers, and so I bought some new gear. So I'm going to share some of that on Twitter for people interested, including what I use. Uh, I got a new water bottle, which is awesome. So I'll put some recommendations with the links to buy them if you're interested on Twitter. For those of you who want to get fit again, because after a year, we're all failing, as Zach and I know from our eyes. Zach, you have anything as a thing of the
I
week?
don't, unfortunately. No. I just haven't watched anything. I mean, I guess sort of thing of the week, like the second half of Luther season 5, not Luther. What's it called? The Netflix show. I've totally forgotten it now. I've forgotten the
Is it
name of
about
it.
the devil?
Yes, that guy. Yes, that show.
Is it just Lucifer?
That's it. I
So
can't.
okay, so I came real close to watching that.
Okay,
I heard the first season wasn't great, but I heard
it
but
gets
seasons 2, 3, and
better.
4 got yeah.
It gets better. The guy who plays the devil, I think, is great. He's super. He plays that character so well. It's a very unique sort of show as well, sort of modern day, but then it's got sort of religious ties to it and stuff.
It's a procedural cop drama
Yeah,
where every week where they're like they got a new mystery to solve,
yeah,
but the protagonist, or is it the
yes,
protagonist,
yeah.
is the
The
devil
devil. Yep,
basically.
he's he is the devil, and
And sometimes he does kind of good things and learn to be human, and there's like that
that's
kind of
right.
whole.
Yeah, it's all about. Yeah, it's honestly, I think it's actually really good. The second part of season 5 just came out on Netflix, so if you haven't seen that show before, give it a watch. I think it get through season 1, it gets better and better. I think season 4 is a bit wobbly, but overall, I think it's a good show.
Interesting. Okay, so yeah, like I said, I came very close to putting that on, but I was vetoed by someone in my household. I'll use as a counter argument against her. I'll second that too with Apple TVs starting to get good.
Oh, really?
So they're doing The Mosquito Coast,
Okay.
which was a movie when I grew up, came out I think in '86. It was based on a book that came out in '81, and the author of the book was Paul Theroux, and um, the actor Justin Theroux, who's been in a ton of movies, he's really good. He was in like Leftovers and all that on HBO. That's his uncle. And so they have rebooted it as a series on Apple TV, and they've updated the story a bit. But yeah, his uncle, who actually is like a producer on the show too, and it's really, 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 really good. Like I'm just really enjoying it. And then I'm starting to get into For All Mankind, which is pretty slow, but at least that first episode was pretty slow. But I'm starting to get into it a little bit more. That's a re-envisioning of the 1970s space race, where I think the Soviets beat us to the moon, and like there's like a lot, and everything changes. Um, but yeah, they're starting to actually get good content on there. Dude, I'm going to lose my credibility. You ready? I'm coming really close to buying an Apple TV 4K.
Ooh, doesn't your TV just have the Apple TV app?
It does, and it's great on Xbox. But then I've been saying this podcast for a while. I don't really game on my Xbox at all anymore because I
Yeah.
have like an awesome gaming rig. So I just game on that when I want to. So then the question is like, why should I keep booting up my Xbox just to watch YouTube TV when I can save space, power, and I kind of like the interface on the Apple TV is going to be faster to use.
Yeah.
And what I'm really kind of curious about is the quality difference there in terms of
Right. You're getting
their
true
apps.
4K instead of like upscaled.
Right, is the 4K better, the HDR? Like, do I notice a difference in terms of performance and how the remote works? Like, I'm kind of just curious in testing that. So stick a pin in that. I may do that this weekend. I know people are gonna be upset, but sorry. I mean, Microsoft could do something in the space if they wanted to. But anywho, that does it for the podcast this week. Hour and 20 minutes, not bad. We'll do Q&A now with the audience. As always, you can follow us on Twitter, Daniel_Rubino, Rubino, or Zach is ZACBOWDEN. We do record this every Friday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube/Windows Central. And you can join and watch the live video there, join the Q&A. Which you don't get to hear on the recorded portion. But as always, thanks for tuning in. Get your shots. Hopefully you too can return to the gym and maybe get an Apple TV. We'll see. We'll catch you next time. Take care, everyone.
Yay! So if you have any questions, now's the time. We do have a dedicated chat on the Discord for the podcast where we will field questions from. And if you're in YouTube chat, we'll also see your questions as well. So don't worry if you're not in Discord. But if you are in the Discord, there's a dedicated chat room for this part of the podcast. So feel free to enter your questions there. Will Duo 2 have Windows Hello, or is that specific to Microsoft hardware? Duo 2 does not have Windows Hello because it doesn't run Windows. I assume what you're asking for is, does it have facial logging, recognition, or some Face IR login system? It does not. It still uses fingerprints as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, the challenge there is the sensors and the size. And there we have enough challenges trying to jam more cameras into the thing, let alone IR sensors. So not there yet. Do you think insiders will see Sun Valley bits the same day or the week after as the announcement? Yeah, I mean, as we said that during the podcast too, that I think I could totally see them on stage saying, and starting today, you can go download this on the Insider channel.
Yeah.
If not that day, I definitely think yes, within a couple of days.
I think it'd definitely be before July.
Yeah. Zach, what is it that you really desire? I know enough about Lucifer that that's his
Yeah. That's how he says it. It's the way he says it as well. It's sort of British. It's not even British, is it? Yeah, it's sort of like well-spoken British accent. Yeah.
Yeah. Will we see a consumer version of Windows Cloud PC announced with Windows 11? It's a good question.
Yeah.
I think no, because I think it'll dilute the message and confuse the message.
That's right, I agree. Cloud PC is interesting because it is supposed to be for consumers, so it would make sense to be at this event. But I think they want the spotlight to be on the client and not the cloud PC stuff. It could be announced at this event. It could also very easily be announced later in the summer. We'll have to wait and see what they do about that. But yeah, I'm not too sure about where they're going to announce that. But it's definitely coming this year, so sooner than later, I assume. With Satya's statement about more opportunities for making money with Windows, what are the chances that Windows 11 will support native Android apps? I'm not sure if the Project Latte stuff I've talked about is ready for Sun Valley. I believe the new store is a stepping stone towards it, especially with the whole like hosting on your own CDNs and whatnot. But I don't know if they're ready to talk about that yet, or if it's still happening, to be fair. I do know that Microsoft has been in talks with Google and Samsung and other people who have Android platforms and whatnot. But I don't know where those conversations are and whether or not something will actually come of them. So we'll have to wait and see.
B13759 asks, I said last week's podcast that Azure is expected to surpass AWS. What did you mean exactly? By what metric? Is it market share? And where did you see the percentages? Yeah, that's a good question. So what I mean by that is clearly AWS is the market leader right now. I believe they have 31% market share. And that's ahead of Microsoft. There's no doubt about it. But let's see how should I phrase this. I'm trying to get the numbers too as I look this up. The year-over-year change, so I'm quoting someone else here, indicates that the advantage that Amazon has may not last. So in 2018, AWS had 33% of the market share. Azure was 15%. 18 months later, AWS is down to 31%, and AWS jumped to 20%. So the trend is year-over-year growth, and especially quarter-by-quarter growth. Microsoft is gaining more market share or is growing faster than AWS is growing. based on that trajectory, we could see by the end of 2021, going to 2022, that Microsoft finally catches up to and or surpasses AWS. Now, that obviously assumes that cloud still grows, but there's no reason to think it won't. It also assumes that Microsoft's quarter over quarter growth stays ahead of where Amazon is. I actually do believe that is plausible because Microsoft's advantage has to do with their services in Azure differs in AWS in specific ways, specifically I'm forgetting the word now, but they have things that seem to be resonating better with the market at this point. So that's where that all comes from, basically, that the market, that Microsoft is growing faster than AWS is. And so at this rate, they could surpass AWS.
Do you think we'll ever see a rejuvenated Windows setup experience? I'd like to see one, but I've not seen one yet, and I'm not aware of any plan to bring one to life. But hopefully that's the thing that happens.
Will Sun Valley for Windows be bigger than Big Sur for macOS? I don't understand the question.
I assume he means in regards to changes from the last version to the next version.
How do you for that?
Well, so Big Sur is more just like a fresh coat of paint for the existing layout of the operating system, whereas Sun Valley in some areas actually changes up a lot of the layouts. So like the new start menu doesn't look like the Windows 10 start menu, for example. So I guess my answer to that would be yes, but again, you're comparing apples to oranges and that sort of comparing it to Mac OS. But yeah, it will be noticeably different in a lot of ways, Sun Valley compared to Windows 10. What's old Windows 10 design language would you be upset if it stays on Windows 11? Anything that isn't MDL2 or above. I don't know, honestly. I think they're doing a good job of sort of burying the old stuff so that it doesn't appear unless you really, really need to find it. But we'll have to see how consistent that actually is. I still think they're going to have issue with context menus because there's just so many different context menus. Some of which aren't even Microsoft controlled, I don't think. So we'll have to wait and see what actually happens there.
Will insider channels continue if Windows 11 happens? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's still Windows as a service. Do you think it's likely that Microsoft will make a normal single-screen Surface phone running Android or no? I'm going to say no on that front. I've not heard of any plan to ship a single-screened Android phone. We're not expecting that.
Let them figure out Duo first before expanding. Will the current ongoing chip shortage continue throughout the year? Yes. I don't think it'll let up until possibly 2022.
Will Sun Valley contain some improvements for gaming? I've not seen anything specific for gaming, I don't think. It's just mostly UI and UX stuff.
If Windows 10 doesn't redesign the File Explorer, the hype is pointless. I mean, that's sure.
Yeah, if you say so.
If your life revolves around a prettified File Explorer, then,
I've actually had a lot of people ask me about the File Explorer. I have not. So I have seen a new File Explorer app, but it was basically the 10X one. And I do not expect them to ship the 10X File Explorer as the default file manager for Windows 11. I think the File Explorer you're seeing in the current dev channel builds on Windows 10 is more or less the File Explorer that will be on Windows 11. They've added new icons. They've padded it out a bit. There's a little more space. There's some extra rounded corners here and there. Maybe in the future they'll do a drastic change. I mean, they may even have a drastic change planned for Windows 11. I've personally not seen it. The only sort of drastic changes I have seen is that they've added dark mode to things like copy dialogues and file properties and the run dialogue and stuff. Maybe they'll add rounded corners to some of the buttons. I think they've already started doing that, but I don't think we're going to see a complete rewrite of the File Explorer with WinUI. Don't get me wrong, I'd like to see it, but I don't think that's what's happening with Sun Valley.
Daniel, have you read Why You Sleep by Matthew Walker? Oh, my voice. You were a sleep expert, right? What's your opinion? I have not read that book, but I know the topic pretty well. Just to summarize quickly, we don't know why people sleep. I know it sounds.
I know why. It's because we get tired.
We get tired, right? because you need rest. We don't know like why you dream
Mm.
specifically. Like why is that a component of it? Because dreaming actually requires a lot of neurological processing and energy, and the brain is already like consumes a ton of energy, and it's just not clear why we dream. Um, and so there's been a lot of theories around this, including I forgot the names of them, but there's this idea that your brain sees a lot during the day, but your sensory system filters out everything so you can focus on stuff. In other words, you're not constantly alerted to everything going around you. And when you fall asleep, your brain is basically making sense of all that. Some of it is also compartmentalizing memories, some of it may be for learning. Um, so there's a lot of research in this area and theories about why we dream and how it even evolved as an evolutionary trait. It's interesting stuff. I'll take a look at that book. It sounds kind of cool. But yeah, it's a whole subfield of sleep. But yeah, the fundamental questions about the brain, we literally just do not understand. Sorry, that had nothing to do with Windows 10. It was a cool question.
Zach mentioned that 10X was supposed to have live background support. Do you know if Windows 11 will get that feature as well? Unfortunately, that live background support wasn't even there in the Windows 10 builds, the Windows 10X builds, the later ones. It was there early on, and then I believe they pulled it. So I wouldn't hold my breath for it to show up in Windows 11.
I'm looking I'm looking to buy a new laptop for data science and stats students. Which laptop specs would you say are most important? Any laptop recommendations? Great question. I've been reviewing and using HP ZBooks lately, which are part of that's a genre called workstations, and that's what you kind of want. Lenovo makes workstations too. They're what's it called? The Lenovo ThinkPad Extreme fits into this category. You can get the Dell XPS 15, and they actually make a more data scientist version of that. What you're usually looking for NVIDIA cards, either the GeForce or their new. I forgot they renamed them now, the A500 or something. It's for running CAD software. So I really like there's the upcoming ZBook Studio, which I have a preview of on the site. That's about to come out, and that's a monster of a laptop. Super expensive, but that'd be really awesome. There's also the ZBook Firefly, I think it's called, which has a smaller processor but has a nice GPU in it. You can even get that with 5G as well. So look for workstations in general. That's what you want. I would look at the ZBook series. I've kind of been partial to them lately, but Lenovo has some stuff here too, as well as Dell.
Will we see a new out-of-box experience with Windows 11? Yes, they've taken the Windows 10X one and put it on Windows 11. So if you've seen the Windows 10X one, that's what they're going to ship. Any chance Windows... Sorry, go on, Dan.
Did you answer the thing about the live backgrounds? Are they doing
Yeah,
that?
I already answered that one, yeah. Any chance Windows 11 might appear on the Surface Duo or Surface Neo, or maybe we can dream of a Windows Mobile where Project Story exists? Yeah, there's no plan to ship Windows 11 on the Duo. We could see it on the Neo, I think. I think that's a possibility, but definitely not the Duo or any phone device.
Why don't you give more content to the Windows on ARM project with the Lumia 950? To be blunt, don't care. Simply, I just have no interest. Do not care.
Yeah, the people who do care about that already know about it.
Yeah, I think it's great. People are doing it. I'm not trying to be mean. I think it's great. People do this stuff. It's a fun hobby. It's neat. I just do not care. There's no way I'm busting out a Lumia 950 to run Windows on it. I don't think it's a thing most people are going to do. You're talking the 0.01% of people on our site who would be interested in this. I'm already behind on a lot of laptop reviews. Like I don't have the bandwidth to focus on that project. But Godspeed to them. I think it's cool. I'll retweet them if they tweet me, but that's all I have to say on that. It's just like I can't respond to every side project that people have.
What makes you think what makes you so sure it's going to be called Windows 11? This is a conversation we can have after June 24th. So I'll remember that question for June 24th, and we can talk about that. Do you think the Surface Go 3 will feel a lot more user-friendly with Windows 11 in regards to touch experience? Windows 10 is awful on such a small screen. I think there's definitely improvements to touch input. I don't know if it will be to the extent that people are expecting it. I don't think, if you're expecting like an iPad OS sort of touch experience, I think you're probably hoping for too much. There will be improvements and whatnot, but I don't think it will be a slam dunk. Not for version 1 at least. So is there definitely a new Windows logo in Sun Valley? Yes, there is.
Windows 11 sounds bad, to be honest. All right, well, so don't take the update and skip it. And
you know what? I think Windows 10 sounds bad.
Like,
well, what do you want from me? What are we supposed to do with that information?
I'm not even sure if like you don't like the name Windows 11, which is weird. Like, do you have like an 11 phobia, or do you think the feature set doesn't sound great? In which case, you haven't seen it yet.
Windows 11 is easier to type on a keyboard. It's one less key. There's no 0 anymore. Just 1 1.
1 0 is like
exactly. If you're typing with one hand, you've got so much more movement for Windows 10 than Windows 11.
Will you guys be reviewing any laptop with the new Radeon 6000 graphics? Sure. As the laptops come about, we'll definitely take a look. What's your take on the new graphics card? I mean, it sounds great. Sounds faster. I don't have strong opinions on graphics cards, Zero. It's just like kind of like processors, to be honest. It's like, all right, it's a little bit faster. But I mean, it's cool. You know, I want AMD to compete against NVIDIA in this space, and I think it's nice. And these are supposed to have some advantages. Yeah, we'll see how it works.
Is there an option in Windows 11 to center the taskbar icons? Yes. In fact, they're centered by default. You can choose to have them left aligned if you want, but I think out of box, they will be in the middle of the screen.
How about calling it Windows X? So you want them change the name from Windows 10 to Windows 10 in Roman numeral.
People just love the number 10.
Like, in Windows X, it's just like, first of all, you've now definitely negated any ability to do a further
I'll tell you what will happen if they call it Windows X. People go, oh, is this like the predecessor to Windows XP?
Yeah. So why they just call it Windows 10 again? And what comes after Windows X?
Yeah. P.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. What are your thoughts on Exynos and AMD and Windows? I mean, we've talked about this on the podcast before. It's vaporware at this point, so I have no opinion. I think I mean, on a grander scale, I think it's awesome, right? I mean, who doesn't want more options? I've said this on last week's podcast. I think you're going to start to see a lot more competition in the ARM space on Windows in the next 2 years, and I think this will be a part of it. So it's great. Is the performance going to be like mind blowing and change the world? I doubt it. Like, we'll have to see. But I'm not. It could be good. It could be not good. We'll have to see.
Does the Windows 11 UI look similar to the Windows 10X UI? Yes. Not identical, but similar.
Why does Microsoft keep updating Cortana in the Microsoft Store? Is it a sick joke? Yes, they're actually. I have been told that they specifically do this to mess with Dave. Yeah, like, hey, what does Dave hate? Oh, well, he really likes Cortana, but he thinks it sucks. So why don't we just keep updating it? I don't know. They're obviously doing background stuff, So who knows? Maybe we'll see something with Cortana. Do you think we'll see something on June 24th, Zach, with Cortana?
I doubt it. I doubt it very much. Though that said, I have been told that Cortana, they have plans for Cortana, not in the sense of like bringing it back as like a Siri competitor and whatnot, but as in the productivity space, they definitely want to sort of build it out as something that is actually able to handle that sort of thing in regards to Teams and Office and Microsoft 365 and whatnot. So yeah, I don't think, they update the app for a reason. It's because there's still purpose to it for the things it's built for. It's just not built for the things most people expect it to be built for these days.
What happened with the rumor about Microsoft's own ARM chips for Azure that would eventually shipped to Surface?
I think that was a rumor that was, yeah, it's a long way out, that rumor.
That was from Bloomberg, and it was just that they were designing their own chips, which, as far as I know, they've always been doing anyways. Right. I don't really know if that was too much news. And that they were going to use it for Azure for data servers because ARM just makes more sense. It's more efficient. and that they could use that for Surface, but I don't think that's necessarily going to happen. I think what it is Microsoft has contingency plans that they have devices they want to make, like Surface Pro X, that they couldn't do with Intel, and Qualcomm could do that. And they want to do these devices, but if they can't do it because the chip isn't on the market and doesn't do it, they'll do it themselves. And they always want to have something brewing in the background just in case that happens. So I think that's what that is.
Someone's asking. I've lost the question. Something about updates. If they bring out Windows 11, can I refuse it and keep Windows 10? This is an interesting question because I don't think you will be able to. I think you will have the choice of not upgrading for it for a long time, but unless you're an enterprise running some sort of long-term servicing branch or whatever they call it these days, I think you will eventually be sort of forced to upgrade, just like how on iOS. Oh no, to be fair, I don't think you actually have to upgrade in iOS. You can stick on the current version forever, but there's no benefit to doing that. And I think Microsoft are going to try and take the same approach that iOS and iPadOS and macOS and Android sort of do. Whereas, they will offer the update to you. It'll be there in Windows Update, waiting and waiting and waiting, and it'll be up to you whether or not you want to install it or not. And they will push it on you, and they will sort of force you. There'll be notifications. They're not at first.
Door late at night.
Yeah.
You're like, why aren't you upgrading?
Not at first. I think for as long as Windows 10 is supported, that will not be a thing that they do to you. But once Windows 10 is out of support, I think it's fair game, and they could easily push that on you. Read the terms and conditions for Windows. I'm sure it says something about updates in there, and whether or not you're allowed to stay on a version of Windows for X amount of time.
If it's new, will they charge for it? No. We've said pretty definitively that we don't expect a subscription model. We don't expect a charge for it now. And we also said, someone asked, do you think, where was it? Will Surface Pro 8 be the hero device for new Windows,
Probably.
like the Pro for Windows 10? Yeah, probably.
If the Neo isn't, then the Pro 8 will be, yeah.
Yeah.
Will we see a Windows 11 X? Maybe one day. Should Microsoft acquire AMD? Dan, why or why not?
Was it? Oh, should I? No. Dumb. No, they leave the chip makers to themselves. The competition is good. If you do that, it just ticks off Intel. And Intel's like a huge customer, and they need Intel for enterprise because Intel is big with business.
That's probably why they didn't buy ARM, right? Because they didn't want to.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the same thing. You don't want to stick they already don't want to play favorites too much. We see this with Surface. They're trying to be like, look at our friends AMD. They're doing Surface Laptop. Look at our friends Intel. They're doing Surface Pro. Look at our friends Qualcomm. They're trying to spread it all around, right? They don't want to pick favorites here, and I think it's a smart move.
Wait, so the Neo is expected? Microsoft hasn't said it's dead. Unlike Windows, which they technically didn't say 10X was dead either, but they've been kind of open about the fact that 10X isn't coming. They've not been so open about the Neo not coming. They've sort of just said it's postponed for now. Likely because they were waiting for Windows 11. I don't see why the Surface Neo couldn't ship with Windows 11. It's an Intel device. It has the specs to power it. The only reason it was shipping with Windows 10X is because they had built that UI for 10X first. Now they're bringing most of it to desktop anyway. So there's no technical reason why they couldn't ship the Neo with Windows 11. That said, maybe they've had reconsidered the whole dual screen on PCs thing, and maybe they think that now it's not viable or worth it. But there's no technical reason why they couldn't ship it with Windows 11.
On what insider channel will Sun Valley first appear? I mean, come on, we don't have that much information.
Probably Dev, if I had to put money on it. To be fair, it could probably show up on... No, it won't, because I'll tell you what, it'll be Dev, because 21H2 for Windows 10 is apparently a thing that's going to ship. And I bet you they'll try and have that for beta for a little while before moving everyone onto Sun Valley.
What will the Windows 10, 11 system requirements be any higher? I don't think so, the Windows 10. The core of the operating system is the same. It's the UI that's being changed. So I don't think the requirements are going to be different. Likewise, with Windows on ARM, someone was asking about that. Yeah, I mean, this will run on Windows on ARM. I don't think that's going to matter either.
Well,
It's
Windows
not a
11,
new operating system. I mean, it is, but at its core, it's not.
it's still based on Windows 10. Which is
Yeah.
based on Windows 8, which is based on Windows 7, which is based on Windows Vista. It's literally, it's like this. It's like not. I tell you what, the biggest change will be in the code base. Like we've been on the same code base of Windows 10 in production for about a year, maybe 2 years now. Vibranium is the current production code base. We've actually had newer code bases since then. We've had Magnesium, and we've now had Iron, both of which haven't shipped for Windows 10. So we're basically sort of three major Windows 10 feature updates ahead already, and nothing shipped. So Windows 11 will be based on Cobalt. So yeah, like it's still sort of Windows at 10 under the hood, but we are quite a bit further away from the production version of Windows 10 than we would have been in the past. So yeah, there are notable differences in the code base, I think. Not too much though, because it still runs UWP apps, still runs Win32 apps. You know, like the app story hasn't changed. That's the main difference between this version of Windows and the last two versions. There was a big app story between Windows 7 and Windows 8, and again with Windows 8 to Windows 10. But that's not happening with this one. Windows 10 to Windows, the app story is exactly the same. It's almost like, honestly, if you go back to Windows Vista, Windows 7, although there were changes under the hood, Windows 7 is much more like Windows Vista than I think most people are led to believe. Think of Windows 11 in that sort of way. Windows 7 was just Windows Vista with a new, fresh, coat of paint. The same thing is happening here. Windows 11 is just Windows 10 with a new face. It's happened before, and it's totally acceptable. It's fine. Right, a couple more questions, then I do need to head off. It's getting late here. Let's see.
I hope 11 makes it easier to dual or triple boot different operating systems. I literally do not think that's a concern. I don't think that's
also it's kind of already kind of easy to do that.
Yeah, I think the only thing they care about is can you run WSL, Linux easily. Yeah, you can do that. That won't change.
What new Surface hardware would you like to see? Do you think MS will introduce new form factors this fall? I'm not sure about new form factors. We might see something, but I'm not 100% sure what that might be. We are expecting... Oh, what we'd like to see, sorry. I'd like to see a Surface Studio 3. I really hope that that's something that they finally announce, because the studio's in need of a refresh quite badly. I'd love to see a new Surface Book as well, but I don't think we're going to see that this year.
I doubt it. Yeah. Will Windows 11 require UEFI like Windows 10X did? I don't think so. I don't think the requirements for Windows 11 are going to change at all from Windows 10. I think if you have a Windows 10 PC right now, you can upgrade to Windows 11 for free. It's just going to be an update. It's just going to change the way it looks. I think that's all it's going to be. I don't think they're going to change any requirements. Maybe for new hardware, they could do that. If you want to put a new license on new hardware, they could probably put some restrictions. But I really don't think that's going to change at all. I don't see why it would.
Will Windows 10 continue getting feature updates after Windows 11? Yeah, but minor ones. Like the 21H2 release of Windows 10, we expect to be very small compared to what Windows 11 is.
This one's kind of a good one. Satya said that whatever comes next will open up new economical opportunities. How does only a design change will unlock economical opportunities? Something doesn't add up. That's the store, and we're expecting basically reallocation of the dividend that Microsoft takes from the developers.
Yeah, the design change you're referring to is codenamed Sun Valley. Sun Valley is not the codename for the release of Windows 11. Technically, that's codenamed Cobalt, though I'm sure they may have an actual different codename for it internally. But the code base for Windows currently, the current code base that they're working on, which they intend to ship Sun Valley on top of, is codenamed Cobalt, and that is what we expect to be Windows 11. So Cobalt has all kinds of different things going on, and also the app platform on top of it. If the inbox apps on Windows, like they can be updated whenever they want. But they can also, if they're all going to ship it at the same time as Windows 11 goes live, then they might as well all call it Windows 11, right? I wouldn't be surprised if the new store, I bet the new store comes to Windows 10. I really do. I think it will, because it's UWP. There's no reason why it couldn't come to Windows 10. I think it will. But But yeah, we'll have to wait and see how they actually go about distributing that.
They may also announce partnerships, and I think they're definitely making the store more open so that developers can put in stuff with fewer
Yeah,
restrictions, take less cut of in-app purchases, or maybe even no cut, right? They
right.
may just abandon that altogether, be like, hey, devs, you get to keep every cent you make in the store from us. Um, that could totally happen. So that's what he's referring to. That's where the economic thing is going to be playing a part.
Is there going to be
Just
a
real
one more
quickly,
thing moment? I don't know how we could possibly know that. I think, like I said, if they are going to do a one more thing moment, it would be, I think, the Surface Neo with Windows 11. But I don't know if they will do that.
well, without Intel stepping up to the M1 chips, Windows is going to suffer, don't you think? No, I don't. I think if you're on Windows and you like using Windows, I think there'll be a very small percentage of people who will switch over to Mac OS just for a processor. Um, some will do that. Some will switch the other way
Yeah,
too.
I think it's crazy that
I-
people think. I hate macOS. There is no chip in the world
Yeah,
that would force me to try to learn macOS. I think it's just inoperable in some of the design choices it makes, especially around like window management. Window management macOS
yes,
is from
yes.
the 80s. It's terrible. It hasn't been changed in so long, and it's so bad. It's just not intuitive at all. macOS gets a lot more credit than it deserves. It really does. And these M1 chips, these Apple chips, are great from a technical standpoint. Are fantastic. But unless I can run Windows on them, I don't care because I don't like that UX. I don't like that platform. It's just not for me. So it doesn't really matter how good or bad the chips are inside them.
It's going to take years of huge growth per quarter of Apple with MacBook sales to make a dent in Windows market share.
And it never
Because
will because
Apple,
Apple is the only one who makes Macs. Unless they allow other people to make Mac OS devices, it's not going to matter.
yeah, I mean, Mac OS has been around 10% the market share, 12%, 9% for a decade. It's just not shifting. And I think Apple's fine with that. They're just making a ton of money. You're seeing the real question is right now with the uptick is one, is it sustainable for MacBook Pro purchases? That is, once the excitement dies down, I mean, don't forget, they fixed a lot with their MacBook Pro with this release. It's not just a processor. The keyboard is finally not crap anymore after 4 years of it being bad. They're now finally going to be getting rid of the touch bar. They're supposed to return ports. Like they're basically undoing things on the Mac to make it better. And some people will see it as a viable alternative. But listen, I tell people all the time, like, if you want a device that like is Surface Pro X. It has a touchscreen, has a built-in pen, it has built-in LTE or maybe 5G, like the NV Folio. You don't have that device doesn't exist with Apple. They have their laptops and their iPads. You'd have to carry both and spend a fortune. But I could just get my NV Folio and do that. I have a really unique PC, right? There's no answer to that by Apple. I think a lot of this M1 stuff is just nerds, you guys, just going back and forth on it. But again, if you talk to normal people, you go, what do you think of the Apple M1 chip? Is it a threat to Intel? They're going to look at you like you're insane. They have no idea what you're talking about. And then you'll be like, well, there's this M1 chip and it's really good. And they're going to be like, what do you mean it's really good? Well, it's faster. Okay. And it gets better battery life. Cool. I mean,
Intel
all
probably
right.
didn't help themselves by doing that marketing campaign where they basically compare themselves to the M1. I feel like Intel should have just not. If they were going to do a marketing campaign, don't mention the M1. Just say here's how Intel's good for these reasons, and then they don't need to be like, oh here's a MacBook and here's why it sucks. I think that
But the gap between Intel and the M1 is just like it's not that great. I mean, again, it depends what you're doing with these devices, right? When I'm using the new Dragonfly, it's quiet, things are fast. Like I don't run an i7 and think, man, this thing is slow as heck, or man, I'm only getting 8 to 9 hours of hardcore battery usage out of it. That sucks. Uh, there's a diminishing return on battery life, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, 10 hours, 15 hours, it's awesome. It's just after a while, it's like you're not going to get big returns on it. So I think this stuff is overhyped. And AMD could be, someone was asking, what does beat the M1? An AMD Ryzen 5000 mobile on multi-core can easily beat an M1. It can. I posted the benchmarks. Single core, the M1 still wins out, but not as much as the the AMD beats it. So AMD is a great competitor here. I think they'll eventually catch up and surpass M1. Qualcomm is there. Like, listen, give it 2 years. I think you'll see this race be a lot different. I think some of you guys are overhyping what you think the M1 is. It doesn't change the computing paradigm. It really doesn't. Not when you can't use a touchscreen or a pen on a MacBook.
Right. I think that's time because I need to head off.
Sounds good.
So thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back next Friday as per usual. Follow us on Twitter. We'll keep you updated when we go live. Join us in the Discord, windowscentral.com/Discord, where we're always around to chat. But yeah, until then, we will see you next time. Bye.